This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
And welcome back, everyone. When I hear somebody say this, I feel bad. Like I want to just walk up to them and say, no. When somebody says I'm not creative, I can't do that. It's my belief, and it was very, very much fortified in meeting our next guest, that we all are creative. We're here to create. That's what we're on this planet. We created ourselves. Well, how can you change that view of you if you think you're not creative? We're going to start there today. She is an art therapist. Lots of insight can come from our creativity, and she shows us that as our professional of the year. Barbara Robertson is back on the program. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks, Steve. How about yourself?
Wonderful. And I know this is kind of fundamental after a number of podcasts, but we should be talking about it in terms of, wondering what this wonderful thing is, creativity.
Yes. Yeah. What is that? And the other thing that I encounter so often are individuals who just don't feel equipped to make artwork, to draw something, to model something with clay, really don't identify themselves with being artistic or creative at all. And I really am curious about what it is that leads us to deny that capacity in ourselves, when I really believe, and I have seen people who didn't believe they could possibly create something that, conveyed feelings, or that conveyed something that was meaningful for them to someone else, really turn around and begin to see that they actually do have the capacity. They just hadn't known it before.
Barbara, do you think a lot of the challenge comes because people put a label in their mind of what creativity is? Example, you say to somebody, hey, you're creative. I say, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. Because they're thinking a picture, a painting, a drawing. And maybe that's not their thing, but oh my gosh, they could be a world-class quilter, and that's their creativity, but they don't view that as being the creativity.
Exactly. And I think that a part of it has come about in our Western culture that values certain kinds of image making over other kinds, like in Europe, beginning in the Renaissance, or actually even before that. A lot of artwork was done to go into churches to convey stories that people who mostly didn't read would be able to learn about from images. But from there, they moved into art museums and places that sort of identified the work as somehow exalted. Somehow really out of the ordinary. And I think that started to convey the sense to, your ordinary sort of everyman person, every man, every woman, that you had to have something really special in you to make an image that would be recognized as worthy to go into a museum.
So you're saying that it has to meet a certain mark to be in a museum, and that's the benchmark that we might look at.
I think in some ways we really do believe that, okay, this has to be so unique. I mean, we associate creativity with something new. And then at the same time, there's that saying, there's nothing new under the sun. Well, somehow or other, some people seem to make up new things. I mean...
Oh, can I ask you a question about that? Just at this juncture right here?
Yeah.
Do you believe that it's all new, or it really came from the inspiration of others or something else? I'm not saying it was copied, just inspired from I'm going, I guess this is kind of fundamental here.
Yeah, yes, yeah, I really do because I think that when we are in tune with what we hold in value in our hearts,
Hmm.
knowing yourself at heart really is more about having an awareness that some things resonate with us. Some things really kind of, to use another sort of sound based term, they strike a chord with us or they feel in harmony with our values. And I think when that happens, when we see something that resonates with us in that way, we're drawn to it. And so if we're open to that awareness, we can really begin to focus on the thing that kind of lights us up that way
Hmm.
and begin to portray it in a way that reflects what it is about that thing, that scene, that sight, that item, that person, that expression, that color, even. What it is about that feels so meaningful to us. And I think that's where the originality comes in. It may not, you may not be the only person who ever had magenta pink resonate with you or
Hmm.
deep orange, but you're going to use it in a way that's unique to you. I'm going to use it in a way that's unique to me. And I think that's where that sense of something new comes in because, yeah, I mean, everything that we are aware of has already been in existence for eons.
I know we pivoted here, but I find it very interesting. If you're going to create something, as they say, you only know what you know. So what do you know? Things that you may have been inspired by, and it may not be, let's say you're going to do a painting. And it doesn't have to be. It could be anything. It could be the quilt.
Yeah.
You're going to approach it from a standpoint of what you kind of know. Maybe you saw a painting, but it's in the back of your head. It's not like I went to a museum today. I saw a painting of a barn with a red sunset. I'm going home today and I'm going to paint a barn with a red sunset. No, but it's in the back of your mind. It made an imprint. It's still in the file cabinet in the back of your head. And then you go to do that painting and you think, you know what? I haven't done a fall scene before and I love sunsets. And for some reason, you decide to do one with a big red sky in the back or whatever it is. Maybe you don't even know why, but it came from somewhere. And I mean this in a very positive way. You're not copying. You just
Oh,
somehow
yeah,
were inspired.
absolutely. Yes.
Mm.
Yeah. And you may actually take it a step further than that. And instead of making the sky red, you may make sort of a bank of trees in the background, red and orange, as they would be in the fall.
Sure.
And it still could have been inspired by that red sky low at the horizon.
Yep. And
Yeah.
I can say for sure, I shared, I always wanted to be a syndicated cartoonist from, back in the day, abandoned that when I was in my low 20s. I was already doing radio. And I sent you some of, the stuff I did back then.
Right.
I can tell you right now, I can rattle off the cartoonists that inspiration came from. I didn't copy them, but that one particular one had a great balance of black and white. It was always very well done. So that inspired me. Another one's lettering. That inspired me. And the way the boxes were shaped in the panels of the comic strip. I kind of like that. I'm going to take that over there. I met a cartoonist when I was in my teens. He lived in a town near me, and obviously since passed, but Walter Byrne, the comic strip was Smitty. It started in the 1920s. It ended in the 70s. And he was,
Wow.
he retired, but my aunt knew him sort of, and he lived like 20 minutes away, and I got to meet him, and I got some original art. Well, when he would sign his name, the box in the panel where he would sign his name, where the line would go like this, there would be a gap, and the line would continue, and he would sign his name in the gap. Well, I did that. I thought it was cool.
Yeah.
And
Awesome. Yeah.
little
Yeah. You're
pieces.
reminding You reminded me of a client who does a lot of artwork herself, and she has a sister-in-law who also does a lot of work, her brother's wife. And she has noticed over the years that the sister-in-law's paintings are very kind of symmetrically balanced. So it's very even left and right, top and bottom. Things tend to be kind of at right angles to each other. And that's how her sister in law perceives balance as the most kind of harmonious for her system. Whereas my client really likes things to be on the diagonal and maybe kind of a little heavy up here and a little heavy down here, but with some wide open space kind of going the other way. So there's more of a sense of dynamic movement in hers, whereas her sister-in-laws are stable, they're static. They're not going anywhere. And I think both of those could be indications about their own individual kind of preferences for what feels balanced to them.
Hmm.
So one individual might really just like to have their feet on solid ground. Maybe the one who likes the more dynamic stuff really loves figure skating. I'm making that up because I really don't know, but that's
Hmm.
just a guess as to one thing that might give you an appreciation for flow and motion that might also show up in how you like to demonstrate balance in your imagery.
Is balance vitally important to creativity?
No, no, it's really not.
Okay.
It's really not. In fact, a lot of artists, I think, portray imbalance in a lot of ways. Um,
Hmm.
and that would give the viewer quite a different feeling. Yeah, yeah. I mean, so it kind of depends on what your purpose is.
Right.
If you experience something that threw you off balance, you might really want to kind of create that in imagery to kind of see what happens.
All right. I want to go, therapy, right? Let's
Right.
say your life is off balance. You got this is crazy going over here, that's over there. It's like it's a whirlwind. Might you, in your creativity, do something with balance to bring balance back to your life in that regard?
That's one possibility. Absolutely.
Hmm.
Absolutely. Um, and there are a lot of ways to do that. In fact, there are ways to do it where you don't even have to see the marks you're making. I will sometimes ask a client to kind of stand at the art desk and pick a marker or a crayon. I'll tape the paper down so I don't have to worry about it slipping. And then I'll invite them to just make a flowing line on the paper that moves in the way that they want to move their shoulder, arm, hand, wrist, whatever is involved in making that mark, and kind of invite them to really, use more than just the hand and the wrist, to really put movement in it that stems from the main trunk of the body.
Hmm.
And then to try that with the non-dominant hand as well and see what happens. And then to look at the lines that are on the page and to see what qualities you notice about those lines.
So that brings me to a thought here that, the non dominant hand, would you say that that might be a good idea to change it up for you? If you're struggling a little bit and, maybe you're stuck in the perfectionism mode,
Yes,
and to break
yes,
that.
that would be a good sort of pickaxe to
Hmm.
to chip away at the perfectionism mode, because our non-dominant hand is just, except for a rare few of us, not as coordinated with what we have in our mind, the ideas that we're holding, the sensation that we're holding in our heart. It's clumsier. It moves more erratically, let's say.
Hmm.
But to make marks with that hand, with that part of ourselves, and then to take a look and see what is our physical response to those lines, again involving the body, looking at how the lines move. And sometimes I'll invite a client to put the artwork up on the wall and take a look at these lines and how they're flowing, and ask them what gesture would their body want to make in response to that movement that's on the page.
Hmm.
And sometimes that can be quite confounding because we're not used to sort of tuning in to our body for that sense. We're so, kind of thought based in how we engage in the world that it's almost has to be a learned skill. Kind of stop and say, yeah, what does my body want to do?
Do you feel that when we're doing anything creative, or if we're struggling a little bit, to listen to the heart? And I know that's a cliche, but really find a way to tap into it. And what are you feeling, as opposed to, I need to do this, it needs to come out perfect, I need to make sure this color over here, it's got to look like a perfect barn, a sky, whatever.
Yes, yeah. I think we all have an inner critic voice
Hmm.
in, in the kind of way that we self-talk quietly in our mind, and not like a hallucination, but we will often kind of mimic a voice that we heard in childhood that was not terribly happy with whatever it was we were doing and wanted us to do something different. And that can
Hmm.
often be kind of fall into the category of having an art injury if something that we were drawing doesn't meet the expectations of a grown up. So there can be questions like, what is that anyway? Or, you left out a lot of details. Or, that's not how those things look. And that can make us kind of begin to doubt our own sense of what it is we're seeing and how we're responding to it.
Um, art injury. Whoa.
Yeah.
That's really, it resonates. I think I shared with you that what that art teacher said to me
Yes.
in 11th grade, where I was doing a painting and the sky was coming out not the way I wanted it. And she was walking by, she checks in with everybody. And I said, that sky doesn't look the way I want it to. I'm getting a little frustrated. And she takes the brush, comes out perfect, of course. And she says, looks right at me and says, you know what you are? You are an underachiever. Um,
Ouch. Yeah. Yeah, I do remember that vividly, and I bet you remember it even more vividly because that would just go right to your heartstrings.
I guess it did, Barbara, because I don't know what Mark had made on me, but I can tell you where I was sitting in the room. She had coffee breath. Everything, every detail. It was before
Ah,
12 noon. I
yeah,
still remember it. And I struggle with whether it held me back or pushed me forward. But I can say this: the following year, that was 11th grade, the following year, I was voted class artist. So
awesome.
so maybe it
Awesome.
did push me forward. I was already doing cartoons and things in the school newspaper, which I really enjoyed, and got kind of known for that. But I don't know if it held me back, but it made a mark. There's no doubt about it.
Well, there's another artist and kind of expressive art encourager in the world that I've learned about a couple of weeks ago. Her name is Melanie Schambach, and she has kind of set up different ways to respond to artwork. Like if you're a parent or a teacher and you're responding to a child's artwork, and that one is in her list under ways of responding that would lead to fear on the part of the child. And if your inner critic has picked up that voice, you're going to kind of continue to sow that level of self-doubt in your own self as you begin to try to create something new. Here, let me fix it means you can't do it. I'm not even going to try to teach you. Just let me fix it. That's so much less confidence building as opposed to the other option that Melanie offers, That's perfectly imperfect. If you were to do it again, how would you do it next time?
I'm gonna sit with that. I got to think about that one. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Or, like that sky's not pleasing you. What is it about that sky that you're not happy with? What does it feel like it's missing? So, something to kind of leave it up to your judgment.
And I can't answer that question at that time because all I remember, and I still have that painting, pretty big one. I still remember, if I think about it right now, what
Yeah.
her sky looks like. It was like the
Yeah.
perfect blend of white, some gray, of course, the blue in the background. We have an email I'd like to get to before we run
Oh,
out of time.
sure. Right.
And this is from Rosie, Camden, New Jersey. She says, I appreciate your conversation. How much can you tell about someone's feelings and emotions from their artwork? Is it accurate?
I never presume that my perception is going to be accurate. I
Hmm.
think that is a very dangerous assumption to make. Um, I do think that if the art therapist is present during the client's process of creating that image, that adds greatly to our ability to kind of perceive maybe an underlying affect, a kind of base emotion or mood that is present.
Hmm.
You can generally infer a little bit from how the marks are made: pressure, speed, force, small movements or large movements. Those are all kind of clues to whether somebody is feeling expansive or constricted. But mostly for me, it is in kind of the dynamics of the mark making that I feel
Hmm.
um, the most access to possibilities, which then I would explore with the client. Because anyone viewing any artwork is going to bring their own history to their vision of what they see. And so a dynamic movement to one person may mean, oh, that's so off balance. To another person, that mean, oh, that's so fluid. I love that flow. And so you can't make an assumption that your story is parallel to the client's story.
Do you feel if you're with somebody as they're creating something, you can ask a question and then from the answer and answers, and it's not like you're asking, what are you thinking about right now? But you're asking about the line. I see this line's very free and fluid, and usually you create something with more geometric shapes. How come you changed it up? They might give you an answer that might lead to another question, leads to another answer, and then you can begin to work with them in terms of a therapeutic
Exactly.
level.
Exactly,
Hmm.
exactly. And also, I will sometimes call attention to a facial expression
Hmm.
or a gesture or maybe a big sigh. Oh, it sounds like you just let go of something. What did you just release? And what was happening on the paper just before you decided that you could breathe out, you could exhale?
Hmm.
What did that feel like? And so that begins to kind of help the individual tie their sensory experience to the visual experience and the kinesthetic experience of moving to make a mark or moving to make dents in clay, um, having that sort of neuroception of what is going on in my body. Where is there tension? Where is there relaxation? Am I holding, am I clenching anywhere? Or did I just kind of let go of the clenches and just kind of soften?
Hmm.
And why? What was happening on my page? Oh, that color looked really beautiful. Yeah, so I felt a moment of confidence about the color I chose. Yeah. And so now what you're doing is you're reading your own inner compass. And the inner compass, oh my gosh, it is so much more reliable than the inner critic, because the inner critic is always looking outward, because it's tuned into how are other people going to respond to my person.
Is
I
the
have
inner
to,
is that inner critic always looking? It's like I had a conversation with somebody before. Remember the divining rod when you were looking for
oh
water?
yes,
You know,
yes,
Right?
yeah.
Is that the inner critic? And now it's always looking for fault. It's looking to find fault.
Yes, because it wants to protect you from someone else finding fault.
Point
The
taken.
only trouble is the inner critic does not realize that it hurts just as much to hear your own mind say, boy, that was a really dumb thing to do, as it would to have someone else say that, because most of the time people aren't going to really say that. So it's a
Hmm.
paradox that the critic kind of believes that that's protective behavior, but what it's also not doing when it's so busy looking outside for a dubious expression or somebody raising an eyebrow or something that might hint at displeasure, it's not realizing what you contain within you that makes you who you are. So
Wow.
it's missing out on the value of what you inherently came into life with. And that's what your inner compass is all about.
Pinnacle thing. Pinnacle point here. What you just mentioned, and really stuck in my head, is we don't realize that the inner critic is just as painful as the outer critic that might say something about what you did. We think, oh, that's just, that. I think we look at the critic more as a compass, but it's a critic. And we don't realize, we minimize because it's coming from within how damaging, painful it can be.
Yes. Yeah, I would say that, it's probably our inner critic that is likely holding us back from acknowledging any artistic interest we might have ever had, or any sense that maybe we could be creative, because actually we are creating just about every minute of the day how to get
Right?
through the next minute,
And we
right?
could go, we're out of time, but we can go even one step further. There's a belief that everything around us, everything around you, everything here, we created it.
That's right.
Like everything. The stuff, even the stuff that you wouldn't even consider, it
Exactly.
was a product of your imagination in some way, shape, and form, how it all came together. Hmm.
Exactly. And one of my favorite sayings I have on a little saucer in my office, it says, life isn't about finding yourself, it's about creating yourself.
Beautiful.
And
Mm.
that's, with every choice we make, we're choosing what to enhance and what to let go of.
And also um, when we talk, people use the term universe. The universe supports me, the universe, and it's fine. Um, there's others that believe that we are the universe here. It started with us.
Well, I do believe that we have a channel that links directly to the universe within us. So I think the universe is within us and all around us. And I think there's like, I keep thinking about a tuning fork, that the music teacher would use in school.
That's Thank you. I'm thinking it. You're saying it. It seems like it's the universe is a vibration. If you match the vibration, that's what's going on there. Like the tuning fork.
Yeah,
Mm.
exactly.
Wow.
Exactly. And then you get harmony and accord and peace and easy connection with other people, and opens you to sharing your gifts because you're no longer afraid of that rejection.
Robertson Art Therapy LLC.
LLC.com.
Com.
Yes.
Go there. Start a conversation. Lots to be revealed. We've never gone a little deeper here and called the spiritual world, and beautiful. Learned a lot today. Validated a lot as well, and I appreciate it. Thank you for being here again.
Yeah, thanks always for your wonderful questions, Steve.
It's not. It's coming from here, the heart. It's not even out of the brain. It's there. You know what? Speaking questions, instant feedback, Steve at gmail.com. If you've got anything to share, any thoughts, even if you got some art that people have done that before, we'd love to take a look at it and, kind of kind of ascertain maybe what you were thinking when you did it. And you can even share that if you want to as well.
That's
Good
right.
stuff. All right.
That's right. We'd be happy to. We'd love to hear from anybody
Definitely.
that's got anything they might want to share. We're open to it.
We'll
Send it
catch up
in.
next week. Thank you.
Take care.
Appreciate it.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.